Lula, I've chronicled over here just using the Hayomi channel. Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael Benevistie, Zecher Tzedek Libracha, one of the great rabbis of his time. He was born actually in the English year 1590 and reported over he passed away in English year 1668. So naturally he would have been about 78 years of age. It's chronicled here that it's on the 13th of Elul, the date of Silula. So we're going to explore a bit with regards to the history, with regards to the great rabbi, very famous rabbi of his time. He was actually born, it was part of the Ottoman Empire at the time, Constantinople over there. A very prominent rabbi he was, a great rabbi of his time, a rabbi we've spoken about before. And interesting enough, he was a brother of Rabbi Chaim Benevistie, who was a Talmid of Rabbi Yosef Trani. And we mentioned about him on various occasions before. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, first of all, it's actually reported over on another place, maybe he passed away in the year 1665. So, a few different opinions just over here. He would go on to become one of the great rabbis of Turkey in his time. He will become a spiritual leader over there of the Jewish community. He'll be a doctor also. He will be a grammarian. He'll be a poet also. A rabbi that will author great Torah works, including the famous Sadeh Yeshua, which is based on the Talmud Yerushalmi. Now, he was born, as I said before, in Kushta in Turkey, and came from the famous rabbinic family, or the Benivisti family, a rabbinic family that spanned many generations. Particularly, we mentioned about how his brother was Rabbi Chaim Benevistie. He was most famously, his brother, the author of the great Torah classic book called the Knesset Hagdolah, another great book we mentioned about on various occasions before. Now, Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael's father's name was Rabbi Israel Benevistie, also once again born, as I mentioned before, a great family of itself. Now, he would learn Torah under auspices of another great rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Meterani, who was also known as the Maharemit, I believe. And I think also other great rabbis, including Rabbi Avram Aligri, another great rabbi, one of the great rabbis of Kushta in Turkey in his time. He was also great in Diktuk. And also Rabbi Yitzchak Azriel, another great rabbi. And he was very much connected to the family. And also another great rabbi, Rabbi Yisrael Benevistie, who was author of the Sefer Beit Yisrael, House of Israel, respectively. So that we have to stress with in regards to that, very, very famously enough. I think Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie will go on to become his Talmid, if I'm not mistaken. Now, it's interesting. Rabbi Yehoshua, yes, that was his Talmid's name was Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie. I think he was obviously a very close relative, I believe, of his. Now, it's interesting. Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael Benevistie would work also as a dayan, as a judge in, hold on a minute, he would work as a judge inside his vicinity, which is a very prominent position. Remember, we've spoken about that Turkey, Greece, all those areas was a center where it came to Torah learning across the world. So that was in Kushta, respectively. And he would, as we said before, he would write a Perush, an expoundation on the Talmud Bavli, on the Shas, respectively, and especially inside looking, I think, also at the eyes of the Talmud Bavli. He would write his Torah class work called the Sadeh Yoshua. This would be on sugyot, let's just say various different sugyot, concentrating on expounding on the Rishonim, for example, their expoundations, understanding it, and understanding, I think, the various other parts of the Shas, using the things. And he did it in a short explanation, made it easier for the reader to let's just say, understand the various Perushim, respectively, which was, and go into in-depth also within regards to this, which was absolutely phenomenal within regards to him. Now, he would actually write writings, especially on the Seder Haget and the Seder Chalitza. Chalitza, this is a topic we speak very much about in the realms of Yevamot. It was printed, I think, the Get Pashut, that was the name, and the Oznei Yehoshua. This was drashot on the Torah and various Hespedim eulogies also. Then there was Avodat Chama, which is a Biaor, was an expoundation on Tfilat Musaf. And Avodat Yom Kippurim, obviously we're coming into Yom Kippur very soon, only just a month away here from time of recording approximately. And as we are about, I think, time of recording, we're on Yud or around Yud El, so it's just a month away. Now, he will write various other importances in of itself. I think he would write a Sheilot, Shuvot, question and answers book called the Sha'ar Yehoshua, the Gates of Joshua. Over there was various different answers with regards to great questions. I think much of it was written in a manuscript form of its time. And I think actually the Chida, the famous Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulay, he would author a book called a Shut also, called the Arbat Kirichim, which was, I think, on various different groups also. So I think the Chida will actually quote him at some stage in time. Remember, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azulay, the Chida, was arguably one of the most famous rabbis of the last few hundred years of that, or definitely one of the most famous rabbis of the last few hundred years. Now, various of his teachings, so we talked about, was in the Sha'ar Yehoshua. We can add on more within regards to it. I think various other books will be left in manuscript form also, which we have to point out over here. I think including, I'm not too sure if it was ever printed at one stage, the Mishmeret HaMitzvot. This was Piyut, I believe, on the Tariag Mitzvot, the 630 Mitzvot. Then there was Lavush Malchut, which was also the Gufa Adam, let's just say in itself, and Perik Bashir. This is another great work in of its time, so that's very, very interesting. And we should really say much more within regards to this. Much is chronicled within regards to him, especially in the Hebrew Library, the National Hebrew Library, and in various other places also. So we see from Constantinople, he was really, really great rabbi. The Benivistie family, Rabbi Chaim Benevistie, was also arguably one of the most famous rabbis of his time, which we have to span about. He did commentaries on, now we're going back to Rabbi Yehoshua ben Yisrael Benevistie. He wrote commentaries on the Jerusalem Talmud, a treatise on the High Holiday Prayer Service, in-depth study of Jewish divorce laws, and yes, I'm not sure. Some of it is still remaining in manuscript. We can explore a bit more with regards to him. That obviously he lived at a time period of the Baal Knesset Gdolah of his brother. Also, he also was recognized, let's say, for his extensive contributions to Jewish scholarship and also practice, and was also known as his role, as we said on the outset, as a physician. He prepared, it's reported over, the Mishmeret HaMitzvot, the observance of the commandments, which is a metrical version of the Azharot, the commentary, and the Levush Malchut, which we spoke about, also known as a royal garment in English. That was a hymn in the style of, I believe, Gabroi's royal crown, of which medical sign constitutes the foundation, of which Rav Azulay, as we said, or Rav Chaim Yosef David Azulay, the Chidah, claims to have seen both of these writings in manuscript at the house of a rabbi in Constantinople. So seemingly at the Chidah's time, it was very much active and was available to actually see. And it's actually reported over the amount of responsa, question and answers that he will answer to was in the thousands reported over, and a large portion of his collection, I think, unfortunately was lost in a fire. We mentioned that in Turkey there were unfortunately some fires and many people lost different Torah works, which we mentioned about on this series before. So sadly, seemingly, he was also affected by this. And the surveying response, I believe, were later published actually in Hungary, of all places, at the beginning of the 20th century, in the 1900s respectively. So that is also very, very interesting also tidbit to say about him. Yeah, we can say more with regards to the great rabbi. Obviously, all these different great Torah books, Seder Aget, Seder Yehoshua we mentioned, Oznei Yehoshua, Avodat, Tamna, Sha'ar Yehoshua, various different importances. I think many of the writings, I think especially from the latest book, Sha'ar Yehoshua, was included in collections of Rav Moshe Benevistie and was connected somehow to Rav Yosef Trani, which is interesting enough. Now, different places say different dates when he passed away. Seemingly he passed away in 1668. We can say a bit more within regards to him. Obviously, he was born in 1590 and in Turkey. And just say the entire family of the Benevistie family was a family full of Talmidei Chachamim, which you mentioned before. It's actually interesting. Rabbi Chaim Benevistie's middle name was Eliezer, so his full title of his brother Rabbi Chaim Eliezer Benevistie. I think he had an older brother called Rabbi Eliezer Benevistie, and also Rabbi Chaim Benevistie. Chaim Benevistie was the author of the Knesset Gdolah. So these were really great rabbis. And so we mentioned more within regards to him. Obviously, we mentioned about Rabbi Yosef Metrani. We're going to speak about him in a minute. He was also one of the great rabbis of Kushta in his time, one of the great poets, and various different questions came out. I think it was in the year 1662 that came out in Kushta, the first part of his book called the Seder Yehoshuah. I think it was 1662, but I'll have to double check on date. That means if it was in 1662, he would have been about, at that stage in time, 72 years of age. And that was on Seder Zera'im also, respectively. There was a Perush on the Talmud Yerushalmi, which we mentioned about before. There was 5 volumes also that was printed at a later stage, which I think after he passed away in Kushta in the year 1749, way after he passed away. We're talking about around over 80 years after he passed away. And also, I think in 1677, something was also printed. This was shortly after he passed away. These different volumes. Oznei Yehoshuah, for example, this was Drushim, expoundations on various subjects of Emunah and Hashkafa, for example. And the Levush Malchut, which was obviously the poems we talked about, was printed, I think, in the year 1903, way after he passed away. We're talking a comfortable around 240 years after. Another Torah book was printed in the year 1904. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe in Ukraine it was even printed in, of all places. So he passed away, he was 78 years of age, chronicled over, and it's reported over, according to Haimi website, they're listing his Hilula as the 13th of Elul because they don't know when exactly his Hilula is, but I think Yud Gimel Elul was a date where he completed the writing of his book called the Seder Yehoshuah, which is a Seder Zera'im respectively. So that's why it'll be commemorated. Let's explore a bit with regards to his rabbi and his... let's explore a bit with regards to Rav Chaim Benevistie, one of the famous rabbis of the time, was his brother. Rav Chaim Benevistie was born in the year 1603 and passed away in 1673. So obviously he was born about 13 years, I think, after the great rabbi we're speaking about today, Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie. Just to say something about him, I think Rav Chaim Benevistie, his brother, was born in Istanbul. That was obviously part of the Ottoman Empire in its day. He was obviously the son of Rabbi Moshe Benevistie and was the older brother. Yes, that's also very interesting, which we have to point out. There's more we can say about him. He was a great rabbi. He was the author of the Knesset Hagdola, the great Torah colossal work, which we mentioned about on various occasions before, which I'll have to say. I think he was about 70 years of age when he passed away. He also passed away in Izmir, his brother did. And he was also nicknamed the Maran HaChavib, also the Knesset Gdola, under his name, his title. He lived at a time here there was many great books, great rabbis. Remember, it wasn't just a book, the Knesset Gdola he wrote, his brother, Rav Chaim, also the Ba'i Chayei, also the Dinah Chayei, also the Pesach Mu'chan, and the Chamra Chayei. That was another great Torah book that he actually authored. He himself passed away, I believe, Rabbi Chaim Benevistie, it chronicled over on Yutet Elul, in 1673, so that would have been about several years after the brother passed away, who we've mentioned about today. So that's also very interesting. I think it was very close to various Rabbanim, including the famous Rabbi Shmuel ben Veliasid, I believe. Also, that's another interesting, and also Rabbi Tzemach Nervoni, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very interesting. Now, his rabbi's name was Rabbi Yosef Metrani. Let's mention about him a bit. He was born in the year 1560 and passed away in 1639. The great rabbi. He was known as a great rabbi. We mentioned before. He was the father actually of Rabbi Moshe Metrani, another great rabbi. And I think will go on to become one of the great rabbis of Tzfat, author of Shut book, the Shut, Ma'amrit, various different Chidushim, especially once again also on the Shas, the Talmud Babli, respectively, and was Chacham Bashi in Turkey, and Shochet Rabbanon Kushta, respectively, the great rabbi. Rabbi Yosef Metrani passed away in the year 1639. He was 71 years of age. It's actually interesting. That point of time, there was many great rabbis, and we were speaking today about Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie. But they lived in a generation at the time of Rabbi Chaim Abulafia, Rabbi Abram ben Hanina, Rabbi Aaron Lapapa. There was Rabbi Abraham Hikini, Rabbi Chaim El Ghazi, Rabbi El Fandari, Rabbi Yosef Chazan. So many great rabbis lived, especially during his time period, respectively, which we mentioned about on various occasions before. So that also has in fact, Rabbi Yosef Metrani was actually from Tzfat, the holy city of Tzfat in Israel. So we've spoken about at that point in time in 1568. That was around the era of the Arizal. pretty much close, and Rabbi Chaim Vital. So we can see the imbuement of his rabbi, how he was coming in. Now the Talmud of Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie, who mentioned from the alto, was Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie. Let's speak about his Talmud a bit. He himself was born in the year 1618 and passed away in 1688 over there. Very, very interesting enough. He was 70 years of age at the time the great rabbi passed away. Naturally, the date of birth of his when he was born was Heit Shin Ayin Chet. Very interesting enough. Let's explore within regards to him. His Talmud, Rabbi Yehoshua Benevistie, will go on also to become a judge, a dayan, also in his vicinity. He will give over grand jury sermons, and was one of the great rabbis of Turkey, especially during the 17th century. Very interesting. Obviously, we mentioned about before how his father's name was Rabbi Eliezer, and very, very interesting enough. He was a part of Kushta. I think his father was, yes, so that's interesting. So his father was Rabbi Chaim Benevistie, and that's interesting. I think his uncle actually was also Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael Benevistie. So the Talmud of Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael Benevistie was his nephew. Rabbi Yisrael Benevistie was. Rabbi Yisrael was one of the great rabbis and one of the great dayans go on to become in Kushta. So you can see the greatness of Rabbi Yehoshua, how it's imbued to his Talmidim. And that's just to stress again, Rabbi Yeshua's Sefer is Seder Yehoshua, which obviously was a great droshim of and was obviously the uncle of him at that stage in time, which we have to point out also. So much more. Just say another extra thing within regards to Rabbi Chaim Benevistie. Rabbi Yisrael Benevistie was he was just a great rabbi. He was that point in time considered one of the great rabbis of Turkey. He was also 70 years of age at the time he passed away. Rabbi Yisrael Benevistie will go on to have a son, Rabbi Eliezer Benevistie, also. So it goes on. And just like his father's name was Rabbi Eliezer Benevistie, he'd have a son, Rabbi Eliezer Benevistie, which is also an extra tidbit what we have to point out. And there was actually great books that he would actually author in of itself. So we have to point that out also. We have to stress this out. Okay, let's explore a few highlights in regards to the book of Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael Benevistie, because just using now the notes from the Jaime website, I think from his book, we're now concentrating on Oznei Yehoshua. On pages 53 and 54, there's a teaching that states, Melamed Yisrael b'klalotam mekablim chiyutam me'ito yitbarach. That's a nice teaching over there. Another teaching that comes from, I think, pages 216 to 223 inside the Oznei Yehoshua book. It teaches, Melamed shelo yisgaf atzmo ele yichya atzmo ala Torah v'ala avodah. That's another interesting teaching. But I think, this maybe book came out. I'm not sure who the author was. It's who printed it itself. But I think it was after he passed away, if I'm not mistaken. Another teaching from the book actually states over. Now we're talking about pages 158 to 162. It says, Melamed, Hishtokokot li kaver be'eretz Yisrael linyan tachaya hameitim. Once again, another very important teaching. And just final teaching, just from the book itself, is Melamed chiyuv nisyut apanim b'krovav. This actually comes from pages 66 to 74 in his book, Oznei Yehoshua, which I recommend everyone to read at a later stage in time. So he was a great rabbi of his time, a rabbi mentioned about on various occasions before. It's always good to speak about the great rabbis of yesterday. He was the author of the Torah colossal work called the Seder Yehoshua. This book was, I believe, printed in Kushtatina also. I think maybe at a later stage it was also printed in Jerusalem. On the preface of the book of the Seder Yehoshua, you actually see three crowns also that has been crowned, just expressing the great crown of Torah that was actually at that stage in time. So he passed away in the year 1668, Rabbi Yehoshua Rafael did. We're talking about from the time of recording here in 2025. It's nearly about 306 years ago, respectively. And he was 78 years of age, is chronicled over at the time he passed away. So don't forget to learn more about him. Look over the other great rabbis. It was very much the Ottoman Empire was where he was living at that stages of time, which you also have to stress over. So, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about great rabbis of yesteryear on this series. Go on the story section of the Tzaddikim and check out all the great Chachamim we've spoken about yesteryear here on this series. I really, really appreciate that. Also, on this series, we're also covering different famous yeshivot, Sephardi yeshivot, all over Eretz Yisrael of yesteryear and all across the world. That's another project that we're working on. We also, if you descend from any of the great rabbis, if you feel anyone is interested in watching any of these videos, please share these videos also to other people and help the community grow. We're nearing 7,500 subscribers. We are aiming for that stage. Let's just hope for it before Sukkot, way before Sukkot. That will be a fantastic achievement if we can get that done. Now, on this series also, friends, we tour around Israel, different archaeological famous places here in Israel. We try and go around and explore the country like a community. We recorded the interesting Jewish personality of modern era, so a rabbi or someone else that's got a lot of wisdom to give over. Every day we put the clip online, it goes viral, so that is also very good. We also do a daily tidbit on the page of Daf Yomi, respectively, to get over some wisdom with a 2-3 minute clip, usually on average. And also we will record about the Parshat HaShavua and also about Hebrew months and one-off topics. So on that note, wishing you all well. Thank you for taking time to listen, and Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for listening, everyone.